Welcome to Smart Route, the podcast by CallTrackingMetrics, where you'll hear stories from businesses at the intersection of marketing, customer experience, and sales. We're sitting down with business leaders and industry experts to dive deep into the path they took to find success. Here's your host, Courtney Tyson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of Smart Route. I'm your host and strategic partnership manager at CallTrackingMetrics, Courtney Tyson. Today, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence, AI. In just a couple of months, we have seen AI blow up with most industries scrambling to discover how to best adopt it. Marketers especially have had all things AI coming at them in every direction. So with that said, we've invited Jeff MacDonald, Social Strategy Director at Mekanism and AI enthusiast, to talk to us about all things AI. Where are we at now? What does the future look like? And will AI steal our jobs? Welcome, Jeff, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about one of the biggest conversation pieces in marketing and technology and pretty much everything right now. So excited to get into it.
We're super excited to get your perspective too. So before we get started, I'm going to share a little bit more about you with our audience. So in his role at Mekanism, Jeff works alongside strategists and creatives and works to bring as many innovative social firsts to clients like Adobe, AT&T, Cricket Wireless, Q-Tips, and Lenovo. Jeff uses creative prototyping and social listening to inform the creation of experiences that bring people together for shared moments of wonder. And outside of his client work, he has created interactive art installations that have connected museum goers together via LED lights and touch. It's pretty awesome, Jeff.
Thank you.
So let's dive right in. Let's talk about AI right now. So it feels like obviously the popularity of AI has popped up overnight. So to start, Jeff, talk to us through how did we get here?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's really interesting, kind of we're at peak hype cycle in AI. And I think the way that we got here is kind of unique in the sense that with other technologies where we've seen like their moment in the sun come, with AI, we've had AI for a number of years in different iterations. For example, when you use text prediction on your phone, that is artificial intelligence. There's a computer, there's an algorithm that is making a inference that the next word that you want to use inside your text message is what it's displaying on screen. And then it gives you a couple of options or routes to go down. And you see this with a lot of AI tools. It's giving you different options or routes to go down. So we've seen that. We've also seen things like image recognition, where it's going through and looking at your photograph and saying, hey, is this a picture of your dog? Do you want to put all of your pictures of your pets together in an album? That's also AI. So we've seen these little helpful computer algorithms for a number of years. The reason why we're at the peak of the hype right now is for a number of reasons. So one of the things that we've noticed is that people really like the intuitive interfaces that like ChatGPT are using, or even Midjourney, would some people would say is an intuitive interface. So AI finally has a human-centered design, a useful opportunity for you to interact with it. It has that user interface. So that's part of that. The other thing is that the tools that are extremely advanced are now available to the masses, rather than just computer scientists and industry insiders, as it was in the past. So around last year, the Stability AI group that creates Stable Diffusion decided to go and kind of push against what other AI researchers were doing, which was building AI tools, but not releasing them to the public. And they went and said, Stable Diffusion for everyone. Everyone get in here and start using tools to write prompts to build generated imagery. And because of that, it kind of opened the floodgates for other groups, such as the OpenAI group that creates ChatGPT, to say, well, let's do this. Why are we not also getting in on this hype, getting in on this excitement around AI tools? And so around November, ChatGPT was released by OpenAI. That has just since snowballed every other group. So Google, Facebook, Microsoft, which is backing a lot of the OpenAI projects right now, all are now pushing their projects forward. Whereas in the past, we've seen little experiments from all of those different technology companies. We've seen little demos, but nothing that was really publicly available for people to get their hands on. And that's the really big difference here. And I think that what that's done is that has made it so that everyone wants to know how AI can be powering their user experience from work, from personal. And so you're going to start seeing this come up more and more. But that pretty much is how we got where we are right now.
Gotcha. So we're here where we are today because we finally have an interface. We have these tools available at our fingertips, and OpenAI kind of opened the floodgates, is what it sounds like. So as AI exists today, I think we talked about a couple tools already, right, through OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
What are today's AI tools capable of, Jeff?
Yeah, so that's what's really exciting about where we are also in the development. It's not all hype. It actually is pretty useful things that AI is able to do now. So AI, where we are right now, let's just talk about the conversational element in ChatGPT. Right now, inside of ChatGPT with their latest version, version 4, you are able to do pretty much any task that you could complete with another human in conversation. There are very few elements where it's going to get something wrong in the sense that you won't be able to continue the conversation. Now, if the information is correct, that's a completely different conversation, and there's a lot of issues around the actual responses you're getting from AI. But conversationally, you will be hard-pressed to not find the outputs that you're getting from ChatGPT to be significantly useful to you. So that is from that side. Conversationally, we've gotten to a point where one-to-one, it's like you're talking to a human. I would say you would be hard pressed to not think there is a actual human on the other side of ChatGPT, feeding you very useful information from a very large knowledge set. On the image generation side, we have gotten to a point where we can generate photorealistic imagery that looks exactly like it was taken from a photographer. There are very little things you can look for. In the past, we would look at hands because generative imagery was really bad at looking at hands or creating hands and making them look realistic. Now, with the latest version of Midjourney, version 5 on their side, it does hands very well. So now we have to look at other things like look in the background of photographs where we're not looking at the main subject. There'll be some things in the background that don't quite make sense, tables missing legs, things like that. But overall, you are also going to be really hard pressed to not think that the image that you're looking at is not a photograph, or at least something that is very close to what you would have seen photoshopped by someone professionally. So on those two sides of things, we're definitely at a space where what you're getting is more than enough or accurate for you to help use it in a professional setting, with you being the expert in making sure that you're fact checking or making any changes to what's being created by AI. So it's kind of like where we stand in terms of its capabilities. What is next is it's going to need to conquer video. So right now there are some really cool projects being used to create generative video. Generative audio is also part of that push. So making it so that we can write in text and it'll make the text sound like that person, where that is a little bit farther ahead than video is right now. You can pretty much put in or train any model on your voice or a celebrity's voice and make it so it sounds like that person is talking that text. But video is going to be the next stage of that process for sure. Other than that, the other outputs we might be looking at is just AI getting better at things like augmented reality, being able to overlay designs in a room using artificial intelligence and augmented reality, as that's kind of like the next frontier as well.
Gotcha. So with the AI tools of today, they are conversational. They can kind of generate these images, so it's capable of imagery. And the next will be video, audio, and augmented reality. Mm-hmm. Before earlier you said, AI it's no longer hype, right? It's here. Mm-hmm. But we have seen a lot of hype for things like metaverse and NFTs fade. Yeah. What's going to make AI any different?
That's kind of the big question right now is this a trend that stands up? Now, since the technology behind AI is really what's being hyped, I would say it has some staying power. The issue we had in Web3 was what we were really championing was a product of the technology. NFTs are underlying of a really amazing, interesting technology around a decentralized web, the ability for us to write things to a blockchain so we can have public tracking of transactions. Those underlying technologies like blockchain, they did not necessarily get the time in the sun like NFTs and cryptocurrencies did. And similarly with metaverse, the metaverse is really just another word for a multiplayer online game, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, except it was just hyped up because it was connected to this world of Web3 and blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So because we didn't champion the underlying technologies, and instead we tried to pay attention to these other more, we'll say, lucrative things that were part of Web3, like cryptocurrencies and NFTs, I think we lost the way of what we were actually trying to do within the Web3 space, which was to create this decentralized web where you owned your information and could make money off of your creations. With AI, the reason why I think we won't see the same hype cycle that we saw with Web3, where people will then eventually stop caring and it'll move on, is that the things that people are using AI for are fundamentally changing the way that they do their work. It's making it so that they're having more time to be human, which is kind of one of the key elements I argue for in AI, and allowing computers to have more time at being computers. So when you start using, if you're, for example, a creative who is constantly working within stock photography or pulling imagery to make other images close to what you want, with a tool like Midjourney, instead of hoping that you find an image that's close to what you were looking for, you'll just literally write the prompt for exactly what you're looking for. Similarly, if you're a researcher and one of your key parts of your job is looking at large amounts of data sets or constantly reading very large PDF documents, AI can help supplement that entire process by going and doing what computers are really good at, which is summarizing really large data sets. So unless people decide that those things are things that they want to go back to, like starting from scratch when they created a new document or starting from scratch when they're creating an image for work, unless they decide they liked the old way of it taking a little bit longer, I don't foresee AI completely going away.
Gotcha. So it's almost like AI is probably going to touch our lives a little bit more than things like like the metaverse or NFTs would. But AI too can be useful to us in our everyday jobs and what we do, right?
Yes. I would want to add to that too, that I think what is the next stage of AI and machine learning in general is not necessarily AI tools that replace our work, but what it does is it augments the way that we work to help highlight the things that we liked doing about the job.
Okay.
So
So if I were to ask you, where is AI going in the future? That's where you kind of think it's going. It's going to be this supplement that's going to help us in our everyday jobs to enhance our skills, help us get better at what we do.
correct. Yeah, I don't think it's not going to be where people are sitting around saying, "Oh, I don't need to do any work anymore because AI is doing it for me." Instead, it's I'm much more efficient with my work, or it made me better at my job because it showed me this new way of thinking about how I do this task. And I think you'll start seeing tools that are implemented in that way to help answer that. Instead of, I'll speak very clearly about how I use it as a strategist. Instead of it writing my creative briefs, it would be a tool that would help me write better creative briefs.
Okay. That's fantastic. Now, outside of how it's going to have an impact on our jobs and obviously add or contribute to the creation of new tools that help us to do our jobs, is there anything else you'd want to add, Jeff, to that question of, where is AI going in the future? Any other kind of perspectives on that?
I think that where it's going in the future, I think artificial intelligence moving into the future is really going to be about finding those use cases that help you get away from your computer. That's going to be, I think, where the next steps are for artificial intelligence is how do I make it so that all of a sudden AI is making it so a task that normally took 3 hours for me to complete makes it so I can only do it in 1 hour. And now I have 2 hours back to do the things that make me more human. So for me, I love being a strategist, but I would love to do more of what I'm doing right now, talking to people and
Right,
learning or
right.
researching by interviewing people. If I can find a tool that makes it so that it pushes me to do more one-on-one human interactions, that's a win for humanity.
Sure.
Similarly, if there's a tool that makes it that I can grab a camera and start shooting social assets faster in person because I know I can bring them back and put them into an AI tool later that will help me edit them and spend less time in front of the computer. Again, another win for humanity, less time in front of
Yes.
glass screens with electricity and more time in front of people and humanity.
It's all about efficiency. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So, Jeff, let's talk about this letter, right? There was recently a letter signed by leaders in
Yes.
the tech industry about pausing on AI development for the next 6 months. We would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's really intriguing. First and foremost, I noticed that one of the most popular people that signed their name to this AI project was Elon Musk. I have to say, I feel like he's got a little bit of a vendetta against the Open AI group, which he no longer is a part of, I believe. Um, so I have to assume that there's something going on there. But I do see some benefits in us slowing down the release of some of these AI tools. If you notice in some of the most recent releases, ChatGPT 4, Midjourney version 5, we've gotten to the point where the output is so realistic, it's becoming harder for us to distinguish from what the AI tools create versus what a human would touch. I think we as a society need to come to a conclusion about how we feel about that. We have to come to a way to have a check and balance on whether or not an image that we see on our timeline and social is generated by AI or realistic. And is there a tool that allows us to fact check that? Can I grab an image off of the internet and pull it into a tool and it'll show me the authenticity of that image? Currently, there are projects being built that will help with that. Adobe has an entire initiative that's around this, which has some major backings of some amazing corporations and other image groups. But right now, since that tool doesn't exist, maybe a pause is the right way for us to, as a society, catch up with what the output capabilities are of AI. That being said, a 6-month pause in the release of new AI will not pause all of what is going on in the development of AI. There is still going to be new algorithms being written. You cannot stop that now. There will still be new tools being created. Now that money has pointed its way towards AI and money is now flowing into every project with the word AI in it, there is no way to stop it now. And so all we can do is if there was a pause in new releases of new versions of these algorithms, we would as a society be able to catch up and maybe develop the tools to protect ourselves from being able to check the authenticity of work or other things that we need to shore up before AI becomes more implemented in other parts of our work in life. But know that you're not going to slow development down at this point.
Sure. That's an interesting perspective. Um, so we talked about AI in the workplace a little bit, and how eventually it will, and I guess eventually right now, it can help us to more efficiently do our jobs. What steps do you think can be taken to ensure that the integration of AI into the workplace doesn't replace human jobs, and but rather replace them? I guess, what role do you see humans playing in the future of work alongside AI?
Before we get into work, I want to look at a really interesting use case that's happening in the world, which
Okay.
is a involuntary A/B test that's happening in our education system. Right now, we've got school systems that are either taking one or the other approach. One approach is they're completely blocking and checking for the use of AI tools. So any paper that's being submitted through their system where they have normally had plagiarism check systems, they are now implementing AI checking systems where they're making sure that whole essays or whole homework assignments aren't being created through AI. Then you have the B test group, which are teachers and professors who are actively investigating and adopting AI as part of their curriculum. So they're teaching these students how to use ChatGPT to help them with their research, how to write better argumentative statements by having the AI be the other part of the conversation. They're using AI to help with ingesting large amounts of data and being able to help summarize it. What's going to happen is you're going to have these student groups, student A and student B, who grow up through an education system, one not ever using AI and one using AI, who are then going to enter a marketplace, whether it be through education at college or through going into a job where you then are going to find yourself using AI tools even if you didn't think you would. AI is coming to Google Docs. AI is coming to Microsoft products. It's going to be there. And so we have to decide whether or not we want the idea of burying maybe this is a strong term, but burying our heads in the sand and deciding that we don't want certain jobs or certain tasks to be used in AI or have AI used in it? Or do we want to find a way to use AI in a way that we find ethical and just? And I would say that I find it much better that the future of work in AI is us finding a way that works with AI, that we find a way that makes it so it makes us better humans. And literally by saying, what are the things that we can do that helps us lean into those attributes that are unique to us? And what do we make computers do that is unique to them? And I think that that is a really interesting thing we're going to see play out in the next year, 10 years, is that A/B test of students and that A/B test of ourselves. What happens? This is an experiment I'm playing out in real time at the agency I work at, Mekanism. What happens when you train an entire 150 plus person agency on AI tools? What are they capable of? And how do they have the competitive advantage against ad agencies that are not using AI tools?
Right.
I choose to think that everyone will find the right way to use the tool versus never letting them use it.
Sure. So we can figure out where it fits in, essentially.
I don't think it will take away any jobs. What I think it will do is I think it will augment the way that people do certain jobs, particularly tasks, again, that are just done better by computers.
Yeah. And the way I think about it is like technology has always been a way to kind of make our lives easier, right? And better too. So AI will only contribute to that as well. We talked a lot about, where AI is presently, where it will potentially go in the future. Let's talk a little bit more about just AI in marketing specifically.
Yeah.
What are some of the key use cases for AI enhancing client experiences?
Absolutely. So one of the really practical things that I think is really useful for AI in terms of marketing and client solutions or just relationship building is using AI as a tool for you to be able to have a competitive advantage in whatever field that you may be marketing towards or working in. One of the things that I love doing with an AI tool is having it go out and look for financial quarterly information for public companies. So looking at those quarterly calls and summarizing all of the information, that's super powerful because me personally, I'm horrible at going through and reminding myself or reading the financial quarterly statements for our clients. But what I'm really good at is going into ChatGPT and typing in so-and-so client, tell me what the latest news is on them and what is happening financially with them. This makes it better for me from a relationship perspective. The next time I'm on a call with a client, I can understand where they're coming from. When they say that they're having to cut budgets, I understand why, because I read from ChatGPT what's going on financially for them. Similarly, for entire areas that our clients are working in, industries, I'm also getting industry news that way. So I'll go in and I'll put in a number of competitors for that client, and ChatGPT will just tell me what is happening financially for them or what is happening in the industry and gives me an update that way. So I really love it for industry updates and also getting a financial outlook on how the industry is doing. It helps me be a better marketing partner to my clients because I can better understand the environment that they're working in.
Sure. Better understand their concept and where they're coming from, their overall company goals, right? And it's important to know those things when you're working with a client.
I've also used it in terms of working with clients and prospective clients. I've also used it as a way to kind of jumpstart, get off that blank page that I always talk about. One of the big things that I think AI is really good at is helping you go from start or from a blank page into your actual work or your idea that you want to create for yourself. And so a lot of times when I'm writing an email, I'll go ahead and have ChatGPT make the first pass at the email. And a lot of people say, well, how do you make it sound like yourself? Well, what you can do, and I've actually done this, is you can just copy and paste 6 or 10 or whatever your number is, other emails that you've written and say, write me this email in the style of the previous emails I've just sent you. And so
Interesting.
that way ChatGPT will have a better sense of your style of writing. But I always have it just kind of like do a first pass on maybe those more difficult emails or those emails where I'm not quite sure where I want to start off from, but I know where I want the conversation to go.
That's a great tip. Love that. So, how do you think AI will continue to change the way marketing teams and agencies operate? And even, Jeff, thinking about the different roles within agencies and how AI might impact them.
I think one of the things that's going to be really impactful right from the very beginning is there'll be less of an excuse to have a large number of ideas to start with in the brainstorming process. There's no reason why at the very beginning of coming up with a creative brief or bringing in a team, you couldn't have already generated a few ideas as part of that process in bringing in the team. Like as a strategist, one of the things that we always try to do is bring in what we call like the bad idea or some example creative to help jumpstart the creative process and let our creative teams know kind of the direction where we want a campaign to go. There's no reason why every strategist can't be doing that. You can't say it takes me too much time to write copy. No, feed your creative brief into ChatGPT and have it write 10, 15 lines, whatever it is. Similarly with imagery now, if you have an idea of where you want to go with visually the campaign, you can jump into Midjourney and immediately generate an image of kind of what you're looking for, and then let your creative team or professionals who actually know how to generate that artwork or create that artwork in the real world use that as their starting point. So I think it's going to make it that we get from zero to something faster, and that we're going to be able to iterate on that creative much faster as well.
Okay.
I think that's also another thing that we can be doing in the marketing world is putting in the creative that we're already creating into these tools to make them better by either helping us write creative lines that are more persuasive or seemingly more persuasive, helping us look for different ways to say things rather than the way that they've been said before. Another thing I can see AI being a huge part of in that creative process is helping sell ideas by, again, showcasing exactly what we mean to clients versus kind of close to this is what we want to create for them.
Understood. Okay. So you've talked a lot about using AI, specifically ChatGPT, to help with writing. We've talked a lot about how AI is probably going to bring about a lot more tools to help us with our jobs and help us in just what we do every day, right? So let's talk a little bit more about how we can actually get what we want out of these AI tools that we have now at our fingertips. So,
Mhm.
what tips do you have for our listeners to get the best answers possible out of these AI chatbots? I think you just said, one for writing email, copy and paste some of your emails into it so it understands your style of writing. That's, I think, a great tip. What other tips do you have for us, Jeff?
Sure. I'll start very general about how to get the best out of your AI experience. And the best thing that you can do is write a lot, write very lengthy prompts. If you look specifically at ChatGPT, the best thing you can do for that and other conversational AI bots is the first thing you want to do in writing your prompt is you want to establish what you want the AI to act as. So if they're this robot and they are capable of doing anything in the world, it can code a website or it can answer your sports scores questions. How do I then narrow down its knowledge set so it can concentrate on the computing power it does have, which is almost infinite? How can it concentrate that computing power on exactly the task I want to have at hand? So the first thing you do is establish how you want the AI to work. So I always start my prompt by saying, you are a strategist or you are a researcher. So start there. You are a blank. And then the next part of the process is telling it what you're going to give as an input. So that way it knows what it's supposed to concentrate on in the next part of the conversation. So you are a social strategist, and I will provide you with a CSV document of social media mentions, or I will provide you a URL to a website where financial quarterly statements are, or you are a Another example, you are a researcher, and I will give you interview questions for an upcoming research assignment. So now we've given it what it needs to act as, and now we've given it its input. The next thing you need to do is declare what the output is that you want. So that way the response that you receive from the AI is exactly what will be useful for you. So you are a social media researcher. I will provide you a CSV document of mentions. I want you, and then this is where you summarize or you give what you want as the output. I want from you a summary of what your findings are in a table. And so that way you're not getting these verbose long paragraphs. You're getting exactly what you want. I want a table. So what we did was we identified how we want the AI to act, what the input is that we're going to be giving it, whether it be question or data. And then the last part of that is what we want the output to be. We want it to be a table. We want it to be CSV code. We want it to be in the form of a panel discussion, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second as well. But that's the really kind of the general broad statement, how to speak to AI to help establish that in a conversation setting. There's more minute details when you're working with an image generation tool like Midjourney, but the overall understanding is very similar. You want to establish what exactly you're looking for by being as lengthy in your response or your prompt as possible. So for generative artwork, I always like to establish what I want as the camera. So do I want it to be a 4K high-res superhuman real or photorealistic image, or am I looking for a cartoon or a sketch? So set out what your camera is. Your location is the next part of that. I want this in a New York back alley, or I want this in a really modern kitchen. The next thing is artistic style. What do you want the style of that image to be? Do you want it to be like super beautiful and sharp, or do I want the style to be a little bit more like moody and maybe dark? Speaking of mood, the next thing you want to set up is the mood. What is the mood you want to show in the image, whether it be really energetic, or maybe it's more subdued, or maybe it's scary, whatever that mood may be. And then the last part of that equation is the subject. What is the key thing you want to home in on? Do you want it to be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich sitting on a kitchen table? All of those other things that you wrote as part of the camera, location, artistic style, and mood set the surrounding element, the subject, the last part of that is really what do you want it to home in on? And if you're following, that was all in mnemonic. So if you ever need help remembering how to write that, it was clams. And that was, you just need to write down clams every single time you're doing it. It's super helpful.
That's fantastic. I love how you gave us tips based on both if you're trying to generate an image or if you're trying to generate a prompt. That's extremely helpful. So you said with an image, you want to identify the camera, the mood, the location, the style, and then the subject. And then when you're writing a prompt, it's understanding the job title of, who is it kind of writing on behalf of, in a sense, right? Yeah. Give it an input and then tell it what to do and what you want and how you want it to be presented. So yeah. This has been great, Jeff. Before we close out our conversation today, I just wanted to ask you if there's anything you'd like to plug.
Yeah, for sure. I would love for more people to find me online. You can find me on social, basically on Twitter and LinkedIn and anywhere else as Jeff McAddress. But find me online on LinkedIn. I will also have a link to my Discord account or Discord server where we're actually growing a community of other marketers who are currently adopting AI tools. We're working to really create this amazing community of people who are jumping headfirst into using AI as marketers, using it in their everyday professional life. So we constantly have new updates about tools that we found. Sometimes like yesterday, we shared a promo code for a tool to try a tool out for free for a month. So it's just kind of this lively group of people hoping to figure out how to use AI in their everyday part of their job.
That's fantastic. Well, folks, you've heard it from him. Definitely follow Jeff, keep up with him and the group that he's creating to, just help inform everyone of everything that's going on in the world of AI. Now, Jeff, this conversation has just been incredibly helpful. I know that it's helped me to kind of better understand and navigate the AI landscape. We talked about the present state of AI, where is it going, how it's going to affect marketers directly, consensus is AI is not stealing anyone's job, right? Instead, it's going to help support us in our roles and help us to enhance our skills as well. So everyone, just continue to be on the lookout for those tools that are coming out. The tools are already out there that can help us, and just stay in the know so that you can work as efficiently as possible. So again, Jeff, this has been incredibly informative. Can't thank you enough for sharing your thoughts and expertise with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been great. And again, for our listeners, please be sure to follow up with Jeff, stay in touch with him. And just thanks again for listening in today. Tune into our next episode. We're going to be talking with Nick Sangvi of Caspio to discuss the concept of SaaS marketplaces. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.